Monday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope your week's off to a good start. Not a great start of the week for the Browns, as word comes out today that Myles Garrett has officially requested a trade from the Browns. This is a statement that was sent out to the media. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me today more than ever. Talks about the 8 years he spent in Cleveland have helped him become the man he is today. Calls the city his home, but his desire to win and compete on the biggest stage won't allow him to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton, a phrase he took from Andrew Berry's end of the season press conference. It's always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. So it is official. Myles Garrett has, in fact, requested to be traded from the Browns. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith, ESPN's first take on the whole request by Myles Garrett to be traded.
I'm not surprised, and I completely support Myles Garrett. The Browns organization, they've been to the playoffs 2 times in the last 5 years. That's the good news. And that's really not that good. The real bad news is that they've been in 2 playoff games to the playoffs twice in the last 22, 23 years. This is a team that has not gotten it done. And the person that I blame the most, unfortunately, respectfully, is Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson had gotten to Cleveland and balled the way he was capable, the way he showcased how he could ball when he was a Houston Texan, Myles Garrett would not be asking for this trade. He's asking for this trade because he knows Cleveland struggles to find a quarterback. They've left it all on the shoulders of their defense. There doesn't seem to be any relief or any help in sight. And he wants to be in a winning situation because he doesn't believe this to be the case. This ain't about anything more so than the fact that you've gotten suspect production from the quarterback position. And he knows the chances of winning are slim to none.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Quarterback position has been a problem, and if you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, you struggle. So we will have plenty more about Myles Garrett requesting the trade from the Browns today. Scott Petrek will be along, Jeff Lloyd will be along, and we'll talk with both of them about that request for trade. Senior Bowl wrapped up, and the building sentiment around the league is that Cam Ward will likely be the #1 pick. That's according to scouts and executives that were at the Senior Bowl. Pete Thamel, who is pretty well plugged in relative to college football, says that it is building sentiment that it will be Cam Ward #1 overall. Of course, the Browns have the 2nd pick, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We're going to turn our attention to basketball. And it was a shock. Luka Doncic traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers. The Lakers get Doncic, Max Keebler, and Markieff Morris. And the Mavericks get back in return Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. So Doncic goes to the Lakers. Anthony Davis, goes to the Mavericks. Ironically, Mavericks' first game after the trade of Doncic comes against the Cavaliers here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And the Cavs, well, they were ready for this one. Darius Garland hits the 3. He had an outstanding game. The Cavs got after it in a hurry. Long outlet pass. Donovan Mitchell takes it inside for the layup. Cavs building up a huge lead in the first quarter. Donovan Mitchell, a 3-pointer. He had 12 points, 6 assists, and the Cavs score a franchise record 50 points, 50 in the first quarter. Ty Jerome to Sam Merrill hits the 3 there. Evan Mobley getting in on the act as well as finds Sam Merrill. He knocks down another 3. He was 9 of 13 from 3-point range, 27 points for Merrill. Evan Mobley drives inside for the dunk, 22 points, 11 rebounds. Cavs 50 in the first quarter, 91 in the first half, and they pull away and win 144-101. Kenny Atkinson on the win.
I just think we show great maturity in terms of how we approach the game, right? they obviously had a lot of guys out, and sometimes you can, take a team lightly, and we all know this is the NBA. Games like this, you can lose. And it started with our defense, really. Like, we got stops. I keep telling once we get stops, our offense is so explosive. So I think it started with our stops, and then we're getting we got a ton of shots and open shots in transition.
Yeah, Darius Garland also had a double-double, 17 points, 10 assists. Cavs, good week, and they finish it off winning a game by a lot that they should have won against the depleted Mavericks. Well, the accolades keep rolling in for Donovan Mitchell. He was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week a little bit earlier today. Almost 23 points a game, 6 assists, shot 53% from the field. Team won all 4 games. Donovan Mitchell adds another Eastern Conference Player of the Week award to the growing list. Hey, baseball right around the corner as the Indians loaded up the equipment truck, and it is headed to Goodyear, Arizona for spring training, where the Guardians will get things rolling in Goodyear. Again, loading up all the equipment, pulling out for the cross-country track to spring training in Goodyear, Arizona. Along those lines, Jim Callis, MLB.com, a guy that talks about the prospects, that pipeline that we show you, the MLB pipeline, the top 100. Jim Callis is the one who puts that together for MLB.com. Talks about Travis Bazzana, what he sees from him relative to his development.
There's not a logjam with the Guardians at second base anymore. Andres Gimenez was traded. We all know about that. So Travis Bazzana, the recent #1 pick, Jim, any chance he's in the big leagues in 2025 playing second base?
I do. I think he's up in the big leagues by the end of the year. I think he's that good a hitter. Talked to a lot of people about him, watched a lot of video. I don't see a weakness. It's a compact left-handed swing. He makes great swing decisions. He doesn't chase. He doesn't swing and miss. He makes hard contact all over the field. He made some adjustments to hit for more power and made it look easy. He hits velocity. He hits breaking balls. He hits changeups. He hits lefties. He hits righties. You're talking about a future batting champion who might be a 25-25 guy. So, yeah, I do think you see him up in the big leagues by the end of the year. And you were asking about him versus Weatherholt earlier. I think Travis has got a little bit more power than JJ, and JJ has a little bit more defensive ability than Travis, and they both can really, really hit.
And those are two guys that were in last year's draft, J.J. Weatherford and Travis Bazzana again. Bazzana all year at high A, so let's see what he does double A and triple A, but you have to like what you hear from the guys who study these prospects day in and day out. This is kind of interesting. So the New York Yankees have signed Carlos Carrasco, who pitched with the Guardians last year, to a minor league deal. He will be invited to Major League spring training, but Carlos Carrasco signed to a minor league deal with the New York Yankees. Will try to make their roster out of spring training. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will talk plenty about Myles Garrett request to be traded from the Browns with Scott Patrak from the Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com. That's straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. So we told you Myles Garrett requested a trade from the Browns. In writing, it kind of has been making the circulation. He turns 30 in late December of 2025. Had 89 pressures 2023, 83 pressures 2024. has been really good without question. Defensive Player of the Year reigning. We'll find out. He's a finalist again to win that award. He's only on the books for $19 million and $20 million the next 2 seasons, which, in addition to making him really good, makes him affordable. Let's welcome in Scott Petrick from the Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com. Scott, we had heard that he might want to be traded. He made it official today.
Yeah, I think it's shocking, David. I mean, we heard him talk in December. I think it was December 20th when he first raised the idea of potentially asking for a trade. Up until then, it had always been, I want to finish my career in Cleveland. Even in October, after Amari Cooper had been traded to the Bills, Myles Garrett said, I don't want that. I want to finish it up here. Talked about winning championships here. On December 20th, the losing was getting to him. He didn't want to go. He made it clear he didn't want to go through a rebuild. And I think this is the next step that you could see his frustration growing. For whatever reason, he doesn't think the Browns are in a position to contend or do the winning he wants to do, because he mentioned in that statement about going to win Super Bowls. And that's his goal, and he made it public that he wants to be traded now.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So Adam Schefter, ESPN's national NFL reporter, with his read on Myles Garrett's request.
I don't think it's surprising that he's requested a trade. I think he's been unhappy, and he wants to win, and it's important for him to try to win a Super Bowl, and he doesn't feel like they're making progress now. And I think that the people that spoke to him throughout the season recognized and sensed his frustration. This is not new. I think the fact that it came out today, okay, we can make a little bit of a case that that's a surprise.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is he's felt this. He just verbalized it and publicized it today. He could have waited to the start of the combine. He could have waited until Super Bowl. He could have done it any time. But I think from his standpoint, he wants to get the ball rolling. He wants people to know he wants out. He's not waiting.
Scott, it's kind of interesting just the timing of it, because there's some focus now with, you'll hear from the Chiefs and the Eagles tonight. So the timing of it's interesting.
Yeah, I think at times with the start of Super Bowl week, and it's clear on Myles Garrett's mind that he's never been to one. Obviously, the Browns have never been to one, but he's been in the league for 8 years, and the Browns have really never come close to going to a Super Bowl during his tenure, and he sees other teams go. He sees the Chiefs going for a three-peat, the Eagles going twice in however many years it is. Sees other teams around the league, whether it's even Buffalo hasn't been, but gets real close every year seemingly. So I think the timing is not a coincidence. It's Super Bowl week. That's where I want to be. And I'm going to put the league on notice and put the Browns on notice that this is what I really want. Now, the Browns have said they don't plan to trade him, and we'll see how that plays out. But he is certainly going to be the talk of the NFL until this situation's resolved.
Yeah, it's interesting. And relative to what you're talking about, longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi, kind of what he's hearing from the Browns' reaction to this trade request.
I have a response from an unnamed Browns source who said, "We are not entertaining offers for him. We would just reiterate what AB has said all offseason. We're not entertaining offers for him."
Could they change their mind?
Sure.
Will they have to?
Sure. I mean, and this is probably the right thing to say publicly, to help you facilitate this trade.
And again, Scott, this is the type of thing that has to play out. Myles is making it clear, not happy.
Yeah, and I was told the same thing that Tony was, that they're not entertaining trade offers, and nothing's changed since Andrew Berry said what he said after the season about, trying to win next year, not trading Myles, and, hoping expecting him to go from Cleveland straight to Canton. So what's interesting is now it's public, and I do think the Browns had an inkling that this was coming. It didn't catch them completely off guard. Now the Browns have a decision to make. Do they dig in and say, no, Myles Garrett's under contract for 2 more years, show up and play? And, I think the money's not even the issue. I think the Browns would give him a record-setting extension. And, for however many years, whatever, they could figure that out. So I don't think it's about the money. It's about proving to Myles that they can win. And maybe that ship has sailed and Myles doesn't believe him and watched, for 8 years and the Browns haven't gotten close enough, whatever. But the Browns they have leverage. He's under contract. It sets up an interesting offseason. How does Myles make even a bigger stink of it? Are there holdouts involved? We don't know if it drags on. Or the Browns could reconsider their position, decide either one, it's time to rebuild, and this is the best way to jumpstart a rebuild by trading Myles Garrett, where you would think you would get a significant haul in return, or you try to win in 2025 even without Garrett, and you try to trade him for maybe a quarterback or an established player or players or whatever it is. So they have decisions to make, but they're starting at, we're not going to trade him.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. And to your point, it's almost more concerning, at least in my mind, that it's not about the money. Because the money you can, there's a big checkbook that you can write checks from. We know that. We've seen that. So it's going to be harder to make him happy relative to that, it seems like, at least initially.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That would be the easy solution. If that, plenty of players say they want to be traded, they get a contract and they settle down. It doesn't feel like this is what Myles Garrett's trade request is about. It's about him wanting to go to a team that he believes can contend for a Super Bowl. I don't know how the Browns bridge that gap. If that's really what they're intent on doing, is bringing back Myles Garrett, whether it's playing out his contract or giving him an extension, whatever. It's having Myles Garrett on this team in 2025. How do they bridge that gap? And that's going to be difficult. It's going to take sitting down with Myles and probably convincing him that this team isn't that far away and that they have the right plan. And I think they tried to convey that to him at the end of the season at the exit meetings, but it wasn't enough. And maybe the plan was fine and Myles is just sick of it and doesn't believe it, doesn't believe them, has been here too long, seen too much losing. But it certainly feels like the divide between where he is and where they are is really significant.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. As you might guess, there's some people with opinions on this.
Hey, what's up, Dave? This is Taylor. So we all know that the major topic of today's show will probably be about Myles Garrett requesting his trade. And I don't think the Browns should hold the man hostage. I think they should try to do right by him and, of course, get the maximum return. I'm thinking it needs to be something to the extent of the Deshaun Watson trade. That's what we need to get for a future Hall of Famer. But like I said, we shouldn't hold the man hostage. The Browns should do their best to get Myles Garrett to a contending team. Thanks for taking my call. You do a great job.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, normally I get that. Man, I don't know. Here's the thing. I think there's probably now more pressure on Andrew Berry to make some significant roster improvements so that Myles is like, all right, I see the path. That's kind of where I'm at with him. You're going to have to wow him with, all right, we might be able to do this.
Yeah, that feels like the way they need to go if, in fact, they decide to not take this opportunity to rebuild, which all indications are that they don't want to do that. So, yeah, if the plan is to convince Myles to stay, that's the only way to do it. And it starts with finding a quarterback. So I don't know if that means, signing Sam Darnold to a bunch of money and say, hey, Myles, he's the best guy out there. I don't know if it's figuring out a way to get a Geno Smith or whatever. Is it just, hey, you're going to sit at number 2 and take the best rookie and pair him with another veteran, and that's the best way to go, in addition to finding a left tackle or another edge rusher, whatever you think the Browns' needs are, whatever Myles might think the Browns' needs are. So it's certainly interesting. I don't think, the caller's point, it's certainly interesting. Holding him hostage, they're paying him a bunch of money. I don't know if that's quite the right description. I don't think you would get 3 first-round draft picks back for Myles Garrett. He's not a quarterback. 2 seems reasonable. Maybe 2 and something else. Is it a first-rounder and another player? Maybe an established player to keep position. Those are all the things that I think the Browns would have to consider if they did trade Garrett. And I think it serves the Browns well not to say right off the top that they will trade him from whatever leverage standpoint they would have. but it's tough, and I get it. I get people supporting Myles, and I get Myles wanting to go somewhere he can be a winner. I think it's just a shame if the Browns, if he doesn't believe the Browns can do that. Because if he doesn't believe it, you would think other guys don't believe it, and then where's this organization?
Yeah, again, it's very layered, and I'm with you wholeheartedly. If your best player who knows a little bit of the plan doesn't believe in it, that's concerning. So this is also kind of interesting. So this is from ML Football. They tweet out David Njoku's projected contract extension: 3 years, $45 million, 1 year left on his deal. That would make him the third highest paid tight end in the league. Njoku, still only 28 years old, has put up pretty good numbers with subpar quarterback play. He was kind of banged up, and that's when he's been able to play an entire season, his numbers have increased. But to their point, we've been looking for a quarterback. You would think better quarterback play improves everybody's numbers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues with this Njoku situation. He's had one, I would say, stellar season, and he's been here as long as Myles. He's been here since 2017. And in 8 years, he had one Pro Bowl season, and that was 2023. And he was not able to build on that in 2024. I think injuries were the major factor. Obviously the quarterback play wasn't good either, but he wasn't on the field as much as he'd like. When he was on the field, he wasn't 100%. He looked bigger this year, whether that's, to beef up, to block, whatever. He just looked bigger, maybe not as explosive as he had been. I think the Browns have a decision to make, and I don't know if I'd be in a rush to give him a long-term extension coming off the year he had. I know he's still pretty young, but he's got a lot of wear and tear on that body after being in the league 8 years. I just think it's a tough spot, because I get it that at his best he is a top, 7 tight end in this league, but we didn't see that in 2024. And as tight as the Browns are with the cap, I just think they have to be careful who they give long-term money to. And I don't know if it's a slam dunk that he'll get it.
Yeah, and in theory, if they're going back to Kevin Stefanski's, quote-unquote, Kevin Stefanski's offense, tight ends become even more important, which makes that dilemma even that much more critical, because you got to be right, without question. Scott Patrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back.
Are you ready? The Ohio Lottery is about to unleash 50 new millionaires on Ohio. Want a chance to become one? Play VIP Millions. With 50 $1 million winning tickets, it's your best chance to win $1 million ever.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak from the Chronicle Telegram, as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave. Love the show. Long-time viewer. Do you think that the Browns are going to take a running back in this draft, or do you think they're just going to find someone in free agency? I mean, there's some good running backs in this year's draft, and I know Nick Chubb's coming off serious injury, then he broke the foot, and so I don't know how long he's going to be around, but I'm definitely not a fan of Ford. I think he runs like he's scared to get hit. Now, granted, he can break one every now and again, but he's just not the guy for me. So do you see the Browns taking a running back? Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns. Woo, woo, woo.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I do think they'll take a running back, and I think they may take two. Ford he's a tough one for me. There are things he does really well, but there are too many no gains and 1 yard gains for a guy that you're going to give the ball to 25 times.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly an NFL player, and I like his explosiveness, and I've seen him get better throughout his career with the Browns. Is he the kind of guy that, when you need one tough yard, you trust to get? Probably not. Or he hasn't shown that he's that guy. And we saw Kareem Hunt have that role in 2023 when Nick Chubb got hurt. Deontay Foreman tried to do that last year. So I think you need to complement Jerome Ford with a true number one back. Now, I don't know if you have to pigeonhole what that number one back needs to be a short yardage guy. I think you just go get the best running back you can. I think Ford's fine as a number two. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He could be a third down back. I think he's fine in blitz pickup. I just don't think he's shown that he can be your number one. And with the uncertainty around Nick Chubb, I think this team needs a number one. And I think they'll find it in the draft, which is really deep in running backs, as opposed to free agents.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they didn't take one last year. And the way Andrew Berry and their personnel staff, they kind of look at it in 2 or 3 year cycles. So they may not have taken one last year because they knew this draft was deep. It ends up there were some pretty good running backs that got taken late last year. So we'll see. This one's from your mailbag, and I'm curious. What do you think Tommy Rees is looking for in a quarterback?
Yeah, it starts with decision making. He was asked that question, and that's what he said, and it lines up with what Shadur Sanders said at the Shrine Bowl, that that's the number one thing that he does well, and it's the number one thing for a quarterback. And I don't think anybody with the Browns would argue that. It's an interesting discussion when you start ranking what's important after decision making. You have accuracy, arm strength, ability to scramble. All those things are important for a quarterback, but I do think it starts with making good decisions, and that's what Reese said, and I think that's the number one thing that we're looking for, whether it's free agency or the draft.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and the mobility thing is a lot of people, you want a guy that can move around in the pocket, that can sense where, and a feel for where pressure is coming from. There are some college quarterbacks you watch, and it's like, ooh, he just doesn't, some guys have that ability to be, there's pressure coming from over here. I got to move a little bit. I think that's an underrated skill set for an NFL quarterback.
I'd agree with you. And I think there's two different pieces. There's what you just said. And we saw Joe Flacco do that at the end of 2023, where he could just fade in the pocket and give himself time. I remember, I think it was Njoku on a fourth down crosser, or maybe it was David Bell, or both of them, where he just buys that extra split second. Or you slide to your left, or you step up. We see the great ones do that. Drew Brees, Tom Brady was always, great at that. And then you have and it's super important. And I don't think Deshaun Watson, I think that was one of his weaknesses. He didn't have a great feel for the pocket. It was a lot of times he's trying to bail. He didn't stay within the pocket and give himself the extra second to get the throw. And then you have the component of this guy can be a threat in the run game. And the more we see today's NFL, the more you see of that. And we saw it a ton in the playoffs where you get to third and short, fourth and short, and you figure out a way to your quarterback figures out a way to pick up that first down. So I think ideally you find a quarterback who has both those mobility, athleticism abilities, qualities.
I agree. And if you're going to make me choose one, I'd like the sense in the pocket. And you mentioned Brady, and that's kind of what I was thinking when I was saying that as well. The other thing, this is kind of interesting. Daniel Jeremiah's NFL Network's draft guru, and he said, when discussing this year's quarterback class, the word fit has never been more important. Don't see any of them as universal talents, perfect for any scheme, sporting cast, weather, etc. And that when you talk about those skills, those are the guys that are the can't miss, no doubt number ones. That's why there isn't one of those guys, which makes taking one of them at 2 really scary for a team that needs to find a quarterback.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it adds to all of Andrew Berry's stresses, I'm sure, in this offseason. If this was last year's quarterback class, the Browns would know they're taking a quarterback at number 2. They just have to figure out which one and who is going to be sitting there at number 2. It's not this class. So they got a lot to figure out. I think Jeremiah, and I respect Jeremiah a ton. I think what's interesting there is the Browns don't want to be pigeonholed. They don't want to talk about having a system that the quarterback necessarily slides into. Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, every time they talk about, and Tommy Rees, talk about catering the system to the quarterback and to the player's skill set. So I don't know if they go in saying, for instance, Jackson Dart fits the wide zone play action the best, or they say, hey, Jalen Milroe has such an upside, and we think he can be the next Lamar Jackson, where that wouldn't be considered a fit with the Browns, but I don't think the Browns would rule him out. So it's very interesting to see how that's going to play out. I get Jeremiah's point. I just don't know if the Browns quite believe what he's saying.
Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. There are no simple answers for quarterbacks, which, again, it's been such a problem for the Browns to find one, so we'll see. Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, plus some Senior Bowl winners and losers. Sports4CLE, will be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrick from the Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Oh, hi, Dave. This is Danielle. I got a question for you. I was thinking about the running back situation. I love Nick Chubb with all my heart and soul. But as we know, he is a little banged up, and maybe they should just offer him some kind of maybe coaching position within the Browns franchise. And I was thinking about a good young person to look at potentially is Henderson. What are your thoughts on Henderson? Thanks, Dave. Go Browns. Woof, woof.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I like Henderson, and we'll get to Nick Chubb in a minute. I like Henderson a lot, and when you hear draft people talk about him, blocking and blitz pickup, he is really good at, which means 3 down back in the NFL because he's got the running skills too. The question with him is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I like him. Like I said, it's a deep class. He's near the top of this class. I don't know if he, is going to be 2 or 3 or 4 off the board among running backs. The Browns need one. I don't know. I tend to think they'll take one later in the draft after he would be off the board. I think there's going to be enough where you can get a potential starter in the 4th or 5th round, and I don't think he makes it there. And I think they have bigger needs right now, and with the number of draft picks they have, left tackle, maybe receiver, obviously quarterback, potential edge rusher, D tackle. So I wouldn't count on the Browns getting him, but if they got him as part of a recommitment to the run, I certainly would not argue because he can play at a high level in this league.
And relative to Nick Chubb, I believe he's not done playing, so they're gonna. I would think they're gonna try to bring him back on an incentive-laden contract to see. Someone might give him a little bit more money, and he may take the money as he should.
Yeah, I think they'll offer him that type of deal, and it's up to him. I don't think it's a guarantee that he comes back. I think maybe he wants to chase wins too. He's been here a long time and hasn't won much. He's coming off the knee. So I think it could go either way. Last year I felt confident he was coming back. This year I don't feel nearly as confident. I know that he's not ready to go become a coach. He's going to keep trying to play. 2025 will be critical in that pursuit because we know he wasn't the same guy in 2024. So, and then that clouds what the Browns do too. If they bring him back and you have a rookie and you have Ford, maybe they just feel it's time for a clean break. Although he is so well respected and so beloved in that building, if he's willing to come back, I think you have to bring him back and then let the pieces shake out with how they do.
All right, this is from Bleacher Report. They did winners and losers from the Senior Bowl. We're going to take a look at a couple of the winners. One of them, wide receiver Jack Besh from Texas Christian, and we saw him quite a bit. Besh caught the game-winning touchdown as time expired. From an evaluation standpoint, a ball winner, and he showed that in the drills. Watched a lot of them. 6'1", 212 pounds. Excels at making contested catches, not afraid to get physical, tough over the middle. Truly the MVP of the week, Bubba Ventrone said. Not only did he perform at an extremely high level, an incredible person, tough. Whoever drafts kids extremely is lucky, extremely lucky. It's kind of interesting, too. Scott, his brother, Tiger, who played at Princeton, was one of the guys that was involved in that terrorist attack in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. So he played really well. Contested catch guy, yeah, give me as many of those as you can load up on.
Yeah, he played really well throughout the week in practice and obviously caught the game winner on Saturday. He's an interesting guy. I'm with you. I like the contested catch. You know, I think he's going to be a day 2 pick in this draft. And, you know, the Browns could always use a guy like that. I think anybody could. They're going to be in the market for receivers. It's interesting when you talk about what type of receiver the Browns would chase. And you have Jerry Jeudy, who isn't the fastest guy, but gets open and he's quick and he's got some downplay or downfield ability. You got Cedric Tillman, who's a big body contested catch guy. I would like to see them find a burner, a guy that can separate and threaten a defense and take the top off a defense. I don't know how many of those guys are out there, and I know they're not easy to find, but I think that would be the number one thing I was looking for. I would pigeonhole myself to that, but that's the type of guy I think that would round out this receiving corps.
I would agree, but anytime you say speed receiver, I have horrible flashbacks to Anthony Schwartz. So, but I'm with you.
It ran through my head too. Yeah, I was saying it and I was thinking about him. Yeah.
All right, another one of the winners is a guy we've talked about, quarterback Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Of the players who took the field, Dart looked like the best playmaker overall. His ability to extend plays, push the ball downfield. Ole Miss all-time passing leader, scored a rushing touchdown after escaping the pocket, completed a couple of big vertical passes. He's an interesting guy. The thing that I saw, even on team drills when they were showing him, he just kills the middle of the field in a good way. It wears it out with passes that are on target. That Ole Miss offense, man, when I watched it, they throw a lot of balls like within a yard or two of the line of scrimmage, which that doesn't translate into the NFL very well.
No, it makes for a difficult evaluation. And I think I saw a stat, and I hope I get it right. It was 30+% of his throws were considered wide open throws, and you just don't have that in the league. There's not enough. Nobody runs enough bubble screens to make that translate, like you said. So he showed some of that at the Senior Bowl. I remember a throw he made over the middle. He had to layer it over the linebacker. Did a really good job. Made a good deep throw down the sideline that wound up getting broken up, but it was a really good throw. So you saw glimpses. Is he a guy that at 33? Will he be there at 33? Do the Browns count on him being there at 33 if they pass up on, whoever is at number 2? Those are the decisions that the Browns have to make. They have to put this puzzle together of who's at number 2, who's at 33, who can you get there, who's worth the number 2 pick. And quarterback just makes that discussion that much harder. But he is certainly an intriguing guy that you look at and go, I could see him at some point being a starter in this league.
Yeah, the more I watch him, the more I want to see of him. And there are some guys that I would not say that about. This is a post-Senior Bowl mock draft from Pro Football Focus. So they got number 1 going Abdul Carter to the Titans. Browns, they have taken Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami, just ahead of the Giants, taking Shedeur Sanders. Ward led the FBS with 91.7 passing grade. Could provide a fresh start in Cleveland, desperately needing a quarterback. He has a high upside, but I think the ceiling and the floor are about a skyscraper when I watch Cam Ward. Let me ask it to you this way: if Abdul Carter is taken, what do you think the Browns do at 2?
I think they take the quarterback they had rated the highest. I think they would love that scenario. This is assuming they like at least one of the quarterbacks. If not, you could probably trade that pick, I would think, and then move down if the Browns decide that they just don't like either quarterback. But it also scares me because you're trading because somebody's coming up to take a quarterback, and they like him enough to take him at number 2. And what do they see that you don't? And that's when you got to really believe your evaluations, really trust your scouts and your people. So it'd be an interesting dilemma or interesting situation. I haven't seen a ton of Cam Ward, but I don't know if I watched a game and a half, 2.5 games, and I loved him. I thought he made a ton of big time throws. I feel like he's comfortable in the pocket. And I know it's not all great with him, but I think the Browns would be thrilled to get him at number 2.
Yeah, so I've seen more of him, and there are some throws where you're like, man, how did he do that? And then there are other throws that are like, why did he do that? You know, the comp I saw was Jameis Winston, and I can certainly see that. It's equally enticing and frustrating. But again, he's a guy that played a lot of college football. The question is, can you coach the gunslinger that makes the out of him?
Yeah, it goes back to that decision-making question. And do you feel he has it in him? And, you know, they're watching the All-22, they have a better feel for it.
Yeah.
Do you think when it came to it, he knew the decisions he was making, he was willing to take a chance and he can curb that? Or is he not processing fast enough? Is he not seeing the field well enough? And then that becomes a big concern.
All right, before I let you go, I know this was from your mailbag. Why do you think people are so dismissive of Nick Chubb?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fair to characterize it as dismissive, but, you know, I think that came after I did an interview and we were talking about him being somewhere else. And it's because he wasn't the same guy last year. And I know that's tough for people to accept. And obviously the hope is that he returns to the Nick Chubb that everybody knows. But if you watched him closely, last year he averaged 3.3 yards a carry. It's nearly 2 yards below what he averaged before that for his career. Didn't have the same explosion, didn't have the same long run ability. So I think that's why I don't think people have given up, but they're questioning whether Nick Chubb can be a viable, legitimate number one back anymore.
Yeah, and you know, some of that, you can't say all of that is on the offensive line, but some of it is because the offensive line just didn't play very well.
Yeah, but I mean, that's true. That's why his numbers were down. But you take the offensive line out of it, does he have the same burst? Do you see him get to that second and third gear? You know, there are times where it looked like he went down with the tackle where you thought, man, I remember Nick Chubb would run right through that or bounce off of it. So, and maybe that's to be expected coming off the injury, and maybe another year getting healthy will make all the difference. What you saw in 2023, you can't look at that and go and be convinced that he's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2025. Doesn't mean he won't be, but you can't assume that he will be.
Right. You can't count on getting the Nick Chubb that you're used to moving forward. I would, yeah, that is absolutely fair. Scott Petrak, as always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Scott.
Thanks, David.
Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out. He is the Browns beat reporter for the Chronicle Telegram. Check him out on the internet, brownzone.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Jeff Lloyd from Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Are you ready? The Ohio Lottery is about to unleash 50 new millionaires on Ohio. Want a chance to become one? Play VIP Millions. With 50 $1 million winning tickets, it's your best chance to win $1 million ever.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
So the Cleveland Browns granted Myles Garrett's trade request. However, do you really think that he's going to go to the Chiefs, Lions, or the Ravens? He's more than likely to spend the rest of his contract on a rebuilding team like the Titans, Patriots, or the Giants, since they'll have likely more first-round picks that are more valuable to the Browns. My suggestion to Myles, stick with the team and see how things pan out. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd, host of Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report. Jeff, yeah, there's some truth to that. He can always say, I'm not going to go, I'm going to hold out. But at that point in time, it's not the Browns' problem. Rather than see how things pan out, I'd said earlier, there's a little bit more urgency for Andrew Berry to do some work in this offseason to convince Myles Garrett that the Browns can win.
Well, the first thing is the conversation is, Myles, that's fantastic. It is literally going to decimate us from a financial standpoint to trade you. And that's just what the facts are. Myles was going to get a contract extension this year anyway, which was probably going to give the Browns more flexibility. If he is moved from the contract he is currently on, it literally destroys any cap space they have and their ability to maneuver in free agency. He does, the point he brings up, and obviously it is a good point. The teams that Myles Garrett would be interested probably to going to, if his written words are true. You're talking about teams that are in the playoffs. Well, that's probably going to cost more, because those picks you can't know where they're going to be. Plus, the assumption is any team that Myles Garrett goes to, you would believe that team improves. So whatever picks you're looking at that they maybe had in 25 would be even worse in 26. The question is, once the trade request is out there, is that the finality of it? That is the biggest thing. Is there any way to come back from it? Because, the Browns, by giving him an extension, could find a way to operate and try to put together what looks to be a good roster. Granted, this is what they did going into 2024, and it did not work. I think one of the things that's probably from Myles' camp side is they probably see what everybody sees, that there really isn't a viable franchise quarterback to be had through trade, free agency, or the draft available this offseason. It's a really, really difficult scenario to be in right now. I don't think it's really a surprise. I think, there's the faction that I'm getting that feedback from, I do believe the Browns felt this was going to happen. It's going to just be yet another big thing that this team is going to have to tackle this offseason. It's out there. Yes. Is it possible that they can get Myles to back off of it? Because if not, they are in a really, really difficult situation.
All right, so ESPN's Tony Grossi on the Myles Garrett situation.
With Myles coming out and saying he wants out, does this now hurt the Browns as to what they can get?
Terribly. He did him no favors. He could have went to Andrew's office and said, "Listen, I want to be traded." And okay, we'll take care of it. We'll, once everyone in the league knows that he's unhappy here, his value goes down.
Okay, he got a whiff of the plan.
Well,
that is one thing I am going to tell you kids right now. And my confidence now in what the Browns are going to do this offseason just plummeted. If their best player doesn't have any faith in what they're doing, what am I supposed to think?
Jeff, I get where he's going with that, but 8 years, Myles been in the league 8 years. He's looking at it going, my shelf life as an NFL player is not long. I need to be in the playoffs, contending for a Super Bowl this year or next.
Sure. But, look, again, though, there's no guarantee. And look, we've had these conversations forever about predominant athletes, about, getting a champion, this, that, or the other thing. There is little to no control over that. Wherever he could go, something could happen to the quarterback. Something could sit if it had to happen to the team, and the team just doesn't achieve what they were supposed to be. That still doesn't mean he feels warm and fuzzy about the product here in Cleveland. And like I just said before, we played that. You do kind of believe that. Basically, I think as much as the Browns are thirsty and desperate for a long-term option at quarterback, there is nothing that's probably going to quench that thirst in this offseason. It's just a fact of the matter. Where does he go? Can he go? Will they trade him? Look, they don't have to do anything. They don't. And, Myles, would his stance be to sit out and watch this, that, or the other thing? It gets to, a really, difficult spot. And I think the thing that probably doesn't help the Browns here, and look, I'll tell you right now, him putting that out there, that does not lower his value in any way. If anything, it raises his value, because now everybody is in, and everybody is essentially, basically bidding against everybody else. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. Again, the biggest hurdle right here now is finances. Because it could end up to a weird situation where the Cleveland Browns maybe have to redo his contract, extend him with the sole purpose and understanding of the fact that they have to do it to actually let him go. And that's where things kind of get really, really interesting here for the Browns.
All right, so this is kind of interesting. These are quarterback draft prospects for the last 2 years. The graph is the under pressure during their final season. This is from Football Insights. Top of the draft, so the best grades when under pressure last 2 years, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. Those are the two quarterbacks that played pretty well as rookies. J.J. McCarthy's up there. The two this year that are good, Kyle McCord played at Syracuse, and Jackson Dart. You look at the bottom end of it, and it's Caleb Williams. Had some success with the Bears, struggled a little bit at times. Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, Will Howard, Jalen Milroe. Again, those are not, and I'm not saying that it's a lock solid that when you play under pressure, you're going to be better as a professional quarterback coming in as a rookie. It's something to take into account. I thought it was really interesting that Nix and Daniels were the top two.
We have two interesting in their diversity. The thing with Bo Nix, though, is he's got to talk about it. Bo Nix played an extremely long college career, over 50, I think it was 53 career starts. So adversity shouldn't rattle somebody with that much experience. Whereas a player like Jaden Daniels was, hey, you're going to put pressure on me. I'm most likely going to make you pay because, my athletic ability is just an absolute calling card for me. In regards, to this class, and the more and more you talk to people, it's, it's really difficult, to see and say that either one of these guys is going to basically come in and take over a franchise, and just be that guy, for a franchise. That being said, two teams are going to take them at some point, and two teams are going to take them probably, predominantly pretty high. I think for each of them, with, of course, Ward, there is, the natural arm ability, throwing from different arm angles. You love the fact of the progression through the three schools he spent time with. That being the caveat, I had somebody say to me, well, if he's already improved that much, how much more can he improve? With Shedeur, the lack of athletic ability scares you. I think it's really impressive, and this is one thing that's maybe not getting the credit it deserves. Both him and Hunter out of Colorado, these guys are really grounded. They are really football players first. And, the hype certainly could have gotten out of hand for both of these guys. And I think Deion Sanders, to his credit, did a phenomenal job with both these guys and, keeping them focused, keeping them grounded. These guys, they're just all about ball, whether it's working out, whether it was practice, whether it's playing. But that being said, talent is talent. And if you just don't think it's there, you got general managers basically, saying that this is it. This is the guy that I am basically putting my career on the line with. And, some of those general managers are in a stance where, hey, I may get to live to make this pick next year, da-da-da-da-da. Some of those general managers, they need a lot of other things to go right for their team with the hopes they would maybe get to select somebody in 26.
Jeff Lloyd and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Full Court Action is a half-hour devoted exclusively to men's and women's basketball from across the Mid-American Conference. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bacon. Join me at 6:30 Tuesday nights and we'll meet the coaches and players from the Mid-American Conference who are making an impact in basketball. Full Court Action will spotlight the top plays and performances from all across the Mid-American Conference, with some historical action as well. Catch Full Court Action Tuesday nights at 6:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, Dan in Maryland again. With regard to the upcoming draft and who the Browns should take with their first round pick, everybody's talking quarterbacks or top defenders like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But I want to throw out one name that I'm becoming increasingly intrigued with, and that is Penn State's all-world tight end, Tyler Warren. That guy is going to be a terrific player in the pros. If we're serious about getting back to this Stefanski-style offense, we're going to need a legitimate tight end, too. And frankly, Tyler Warren wouldn't be tight end 2. He'd be tight end 1A. I think we pair him with Njoku and make 12 personnel our base offense, and that could be devastating and create a lot of really difficult matchups for opposing defenses. Obviously, we wouldn't want to take Warren at number 2, but trade back to maybe 6, 7, even 8 or 9. But I think that's a guy we definitely should be looking at, and he could really be a cornerstone of our franchise for years to come. Anyhow, keep up the good work. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Jeff, I like Warren. I think he's going to be a really good pro. Man, I don't know about taking. There are so you need there are so many needs. I don't know that you can address tight end that early. But again, I like Warren. I think he's going to be a really good pro.
Yeah, I mean, the justification would be, what are you going to get out of him in year 1? In year 2, and if you already have, David Njoku established as your tight end 1, dipping into this tight end class is not something that, I'm disagreeing with. I think because what we've learned from David Njoku, and we probably learned last year when he was dinged up, is he's such a focal point of the offense just by being out there. He can patrol that middle. You have to devote some underneath coverage to him. The guys up top on the roof have to, know where David Njoku is underneath as well. And so therefore, what you need to do is you kind of have to have a plan in place for, what you're going to do when David Njoku needs to leave the field or, God forbid, David Njoku misses some time. So maybe go out and get a veteran hand in the dirt blocking guy. And then maybe somewhere in, early round 3, there are athletic tight ends that can kind of replicate some of what David Njoku does. And, that way you're, basically, hopefully taking something that is a strength for this team and continuing to keep it a strength. It's a great tight end class. But there are bigger needs. And, the fact that, I don't think they're going to dedicate going 12 personnel. And the other thing is, David Njoku has worked into being a pretty good blocker. Tyler Warren, that's the one thing that, everybody always wants to look at the positive sides, of the written part of, the draft. Very few go to the negative part of the scouting reports. And look, Tyler Warren, be a solid blocker in the NFL. It takes work. And, that is something that Tyler Warren is going to have ahead of him once he gets into the league.
So we know about the draft. Before the draft will be free agency. What areas of the team, what positions do you think need to be addressed in free agency? So more immediate needs for guys that can come in and be productive.
I don't know if there's much there in the wide receiver class, but it's something you have to look at. I think people are drawing a blind eye to the Browns wide receiver room, after Jerry Jeudy. I don't believe that there's anybody on the roster with more than 27 receptions. That's with Elijah Moore being viewed as a free agent and not part of the 2025 season. Also, the defensive line room, do you need to bring in another free agent edge? Are you going to bring in another free agent defensive tackle? The trenches are always, very, very important. Left guard. I mean, look, that's the one thing with all this Myles news today is everybody wants to talk about Myles, but, that could be a statement for whether or not Joel Bitonio wants to come back here in 2025. Does Nick Chubb, who's a free agent, want to come back in 2025? I mean, if you have one core player who seems disgruntled and unsure of the vision of the path to success for this team, you have to think that's something that other veterans are viewing and thinking about as well. So, trench play always, because, when these kids come into the league, it's not always a day one, just take off and go. You're coming in with guys, 300 pounders, who have been in this league for a long time, understand the dirty side of it. Usually, free agent and trench plays is a good way to go. They're going to need help at the wide receiver position. The draft isn't going to offer many options. It's going to be similar like the Tyler Warren thing, where they're going to be dipping down later into that positional group, and it may not offer any more answers than what they currently have on the roster. Maybe Andrew Berry can pull off, another wide receiver trade. He's had really good success with that the last 3 off seasons. But free agency wise, you're probably looking in the trench areas. If a quarterback hits there, maybe it's a coup for them. But until I see one do that, I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I'm with you. Jeff Lloyd from Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report. As always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Of course. We will talk soon, David. Everybody hang in there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. Make sure you check him out, Jeff Lloyd, host of Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report. Always really good stuff. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.